Welcome back to episode 5 of Be
Forkin For Real.
Thank you guys.
Thank you guys so much for coming in, or us coming in and letting us have this podcast here. As
New
you guys
setup.
know, this is a new setup, a new change of environment. We're here at Semilla Coffee Lab in the back room, right? Is there a specific name for this room?
We call it the roastery.
That's freshly ground coffee. I mean, so I guess to do coffee right, the main thing you have to control is like variables. So you want to do the same thing consistently and know what you're moving before you start making adjustments. Not just making adjustments blindly. This is our Kenya coffee. I'm fairly familiar with it. Just so we got a new batch, so I've been roasting it for like 2 weeks now.
2 weeks, yeah.
Yeah. So every time you get a coffee, it's a little bit of adjustment. So this coffee I know needs to be ground a little bit coarser. So I ground. You can see it there. It's not quite super fine. Don't touch it, but you can smell it. Like move it around. You'll see like the texture.
Yeah. For extraction, we're grinding like burr grinders. Burr grinders kind of give it the consistency throughout the grind and particle size, so that the water moves and flows through the particles as even as possible to get a better extraction. So not over extract or under extract. So when a lot of people that grind at home and grind like in like blenders and stuff, those are blade grinders. So what happens is you have uneven particles, which what happens is you have over extraction and under extraction happening in the same brew, which is the worst of both worlds, right?
I'll tell you what, that's the best coffee I've ever smelled. Usually the only coffee I ever smell is when you do it in between fragrances to clean the palate.
Gotcha.
When you put cologne on.
Yeah.
So that is like the best coffee I've ever smelled.
What coffee beans are these?
These are
this
the
Kenya.
Yeah.
So this is Kenya. We work with farmers directly, so we don't really do any blends. That's another thing that's kind of specific to us. A lot of places you're gonna go, even like specialty shops. When we say specialty, we're talking about the specialty coffee industry. It just means that it's coffees so every country has a cup of excellence. So farmers, what they do is they submit their coffees, and if they get to a certain point scale, which is A3 and above, they're considered specialty coffee, which sells at like a higher market than like what we call commodity coffee, which is what we see at like Starbucks, Dunkin', all that stuff, right? On top of that, we don't only do so a lot of what a lot of places will do is they'll grab like kind of specialty coffee and then mix kind of with lower quality and then call it Semilla blend, 956, RGB blend, right?
I see, okay.
I sell it to you, it's got a little bit of that stuff and 80% of the lower skill stuff. But at the end of the day, I sell it as Semilla blend, no one really knows. I just say there's a little bit of Kenya, a little bit of Colombia, a little bit of this. You're good, type of thing. And I can sell it cheaper to you, but there's no traceability. So here, what we do is we kind of work directly with farmers and we kind of just do single origin, which means we can actually trace it back to the farmer's name, the name of the farm, and everything like that. So we keep it as consistent as possible.
And like he was saying, along with things being single origin, aside from just like the ethics side of it, it's like the chemistry and just the way the coffee brews. Like I said, I have a Kenya, I need a coarser grind. If I get like the Colombia, I'm going to be grinding it way finer. Exactly. So let's just say I get a 50-50 blend and I pull out a scoop or I weigh it out, regardless of what method you use. I have no guarantee that dose that I have is exactly 50-50. Could be 60-40, 70-30. I have no way of controlling that. Like what I received, the bag is 50-50, but like individually, it becomes like a mess. Like he said, over extraction, under extraction, you have no way of controlling those variables.
And coffee is a fruit. Something that a lot of people don't know and sounds like super basic is coffee is a fruit. It's a cherry. There's 2 seeds inside of a cherry. So what happens is there's different varieties of cherries, just like there's different varieties of apples. If I say, hey, can you go grab me an apple from the store? You're going to be like, for sure. There's like 900 different apples. Which one do you want? Just give me a red one. Yeah, exactly. And I'm just give me a red one. You're going to be like, dude, there's like 10 different, red ones, right? And they each taste like apples, but they each taste different, distinct. A little bit more acidity, a little bit more sweet. So that's exactly what you get with coffee as well. There's cherries. So what happens is, like you said, when you do a 50-50 blend, a lot of times these varieties are different. The density in the bean is different. So just the way to extract it is different. That's why it takes around 2 weeks for us to, okay, we got it down. This is the best it's going to taste. Even at like the first brew that we do is decent, right? We have like a specific recipe that we follow, base recipe. But as we go, we start tweaking it, perfecting it. In coffee industry, we call it dialing in, right? We're dialing in the coffee to get its like best taste, right?
I see.
So that's exactly what we're gonna do.
And is that what you're talking about, like finding like finer grinds? Like,
yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
So like he was saying, like extraction, over extraction, under extraction. You sometimes have to move the grinder. There's a lot of variables you can move.
Yeah. The temperature of the water, the grind size, the filter,
the brew method.
So there's a lot of, so the only real way to actually be objective is using what we call a refractometer. A refractometer essentially, it shoots light through, like we can brew something, then we get a little bit, like a sample, it shoots light through it, and it'll tell us like the TDS, which is the total dissolved solids that actually ended up in the brew. And with a formula, you figure out the extraction percentage. The only variable thing, the only like objective thing is the extraction percentage, right? Other than that, it's just palate. So the better you get your palate, the more you're gonna be able to be like, right now, like this coffee, right now it has like notes of grape, plum, pear, floral, creamy, right? But at the end of the day, we all have different experiences when it comes to like food and flavors and stuff like that. So it might remind you of something you had that your grandma made, right? And you might start like kind of bringing it back to, okay, yeah, I can see the grape or like the plum.
Exactly. Very similar.
Notes, exactly. Nowadays, unfortunately, what's starting to happen is people are, and this is like a new trend that's coming into the coffee industry, is people are letting fruit like sit with coffee, with lower end coffee. So when people taste it, they're like, oh, it tastes like strawberries, just like the card said. It's like, no, there's actual strawberries in it. Here we're talking about notes, like you said, like fine wine. There's not strawberries in the grapes. It's just the grapes remind you of the taste of strawberries, right? So essentially, this coffee is from a farm called Mara Estate. It was harvested May through July. The region is Narok County, Kenya. And yeah, so we have all the information in these cards. We kind of give these cards out with every pour over. And on the back of the card, you'll see all the information because we're able to have that because of the quality of coffee that we're able to buy and the farmers we were able to work with. So,
Okay.
So what are you going to walk us through?
But just to pour over, again, minimal variables. So you just want to keep things like as consistent as possible. So I'm just going to put this handle here, this one here. It just works, and that way I know, like, even if there's like a micro adjustment, I didn't move that every time I do it. You also want to clean your filter because there's still paper flavor in the filter, and also helps warm everything up so that when you brew it, you don't have like temperatures varying because like, oh well, the ceramic wasn't warm yet because it hadn't had contact with the water yet. So you just clean out the filter, empty it out. Oh nice. I already have the grounds here.
okay.
There you go.
Going to center this side.
And you want as flat a bit.
Maybe there.
Yeah. And you want as flat a bed as possible after you put your grounds in.
So there's a lot of like kind of little lingo that you start picking up as you start kind of getting into the world of specialty coffee. The bed is essentially the grounds. We want them to be like a little bed, like kind of like as flat as possible, right? So again, we're trying to be as consistent with everything so that we know. So right now we're gonna see how long it takes to actually brew, right? The longer it takes taking, the like bigger the extraction, the bigger percentage, right? The faster, right? Exactly. Okay. So the faster it goes, the less extraction, right? So what happens there is, okay, well, you know what? It felt kind of fast. We need to go back, adjust. We need to go back. So we're always making micro adjustments. And even like the weather, being in here, not being over there, it's probably a little bit hotter over there because it's been busy all day, you know, type of thing. So even those little things mess with it. So we're always micro adjusting things to make it as consistent as possible. But the beauty of coffee is that it's art and science. The art part is the subjective flavor. It's never going to be perfect part, right? Because art's never perfect. It's subjective, you know, to like the person actually admiring it. And then the science side is this, you know, weight, temperature control, all that stuff. So that's kind of what coffee is, you know, playing both of those
So
together.
what you're trying to do is technically bring the consistent experience to the user.
Exactly. Exactly. So this is a scale. Essentially, what we're gonna do, we're gonna do like a 3-pour system. The first pour is called the bloom. So he's gonna start the clock.
This is my favorite pour because you get to see a lot of stuff happen. And this is where you start to get familiar with the coffee and sometimes what the texture is gonna be like. And pour 60 grams in circular motion, not pouring onto the paper because then you'll get more of the paper flavor. And again, it's rough numbers. So you don't get exactly, it's like, oh my God, it's ruined. Not at all.
So these little bubbles on top, that's a carbon dioxide leaving the coffee. So that's how you know it's fresh as well, right?
Yeah.
Nice.
So the carbon dioxide, we let it 45 seconds. We let the carbon dioxide leave as much as possible. Again, we're trying to get rid of all the flavors as possible to really taste the coffee. So that's why he wet the filter to get rid of the paper taste. Now the carbon dioxide is leaving the coffee. We're gonna wait 45 seconds and then we're gonna do the second pour.
Beautiful.
The amount of science that goes behind this coffee, right? It's like amazing, and some people don't even understand that. So 45 seconds.
Yeah, and that's kind of like what we try to like our end of the spectrum. You know, coffee is such a thing that I tell people, you go down the street, you ask 100 people, hey, you know what coffee is? Everyone's gonna say yes.
Yeah, right.
But if I tell them, hey, do you know what a pour over is? Do you know how it works? how many of them are going to say yes? Like very few. And I think that's where the obsession comes from. Like telling people like, you know, coffee, and they're like, yeah, no, but you need to like coffee, you know, type of thing. That's that like chase of like letting them know that there's something so special. Yeah.
I know a lot of Folgers, and this I know.
I don't know if I'm liable for lawsuit, but
So now this is the second step, right?
Yeah.
We just
So
went over.
the second pour really, it's however you.
It's kind of like we're trying to get to the top of the filter to just keep the temperature as consistent as possible, right? We're gonna do a 15-to-1 ratio, which means if we're using 20 grams of coffee in this scenario, we're using 300 milliliters out, right? Grams and milliliters are the same thing, except one is obviously solids and one's liquid, right? So to be as consistent as possible, again, our ratio is gonna stay the same. So we're gonna go all the way to 300 and we're gonna see where it ends at. You know, we're trying to kind of get in that 330 range, right? 3 minutes and 30 seconds type of thing. So we're doing a 15-to-1 ratio right now. That's what works best for us. It's a pretty strong cup. Industry standard is anywhere from 15-to-1 to 18-to-1. So we use a lot of coffee, per like what you usually get, you know, even with shots, we do 19.6 in, 45 out. At other shops, it's usually 18 in, 30 out. So
I thought you said shots. I said we're gonna make you some shot coffee, some cocktails, or what?
Some espresso, yeah. For espresso, it's very similar. Just obviously, it's ground a lot finer. There's pressure added to it, so that makes the water seep slower and thicker. You know,
What makes a coffee stronger?
So really, caffeine. So the more you roast it, the more caffeine it loses. So a lot of people, that's another misconception. You know, for a while everyone's like, "Oh, I drink dark roast because I really like coffee. You know, I like the strong stuff." And it's like, well, the darker they roast, the less caffeine it actually has, right?
Okay.
Another thing I was telling Alex in the text messages is a lot of the coffee industry. So coffee, after you roast it, it lasts a month, right? Like we roast it in there, and it lasts a month. So a lot of the times, coffee's been sitting in the shelves for 6 months to a year. So how are you able to have caffeine still, right?
Right.
Well, the only way to have caffeine and even just flavor is to reintroduce flavor, reintroduce caffeine, right? And unfortunately, you have to reintroduce synthetic caffeine to it. Synthetic caffeine is what we find in Monster, energy drinks, all that stuff. Accelerates your heart rate. This natural caffeine accelerates your metabolism, so it's very different. They both make you feel awake. One makes you want to go to the restroom. The other one kind of makes you feel like you're having a heart attack, right? This is really good for you. The other caffeine is really bad for you, you know? So like, we get a lot of people in here, hey, do you have decaf? It's because I feel really jittery or I feel really bad after I drink, you know, caffeine. And we try to tell them, well, this caffeine's a little bit different and all that stuff. You also kind of notice this coffee is not gonna be like strong, crazy. Like people are like, oh, black coffee, that's kind of insane. How do you guys drink that?
Right.
And you're gonna drink it and you're like, this is almost like tea. It's not like as strong as I thought it was gonna be. And that's how it's supposed to be.
And what you're doing here is
just warming the cup, cleaning it out, same thing.
So we don't want the hot coffee to hit the cold cup.
Don't
and
wanna
then
shock it.
like kind of shock, you know, go into shock. So we're trying to warm up the cup as much as possible so that it goes into like a more like stable environment as well. So again, it's just trying to be as stable, have as many constants as possible, so we know that we're not like doing something that's affecting the taste. If there's something in the taste or the extraction, it's because, you know, we can go back to the grind size or the temperature. We can go back to like the couple variables that we can't really control perfectly, you know?
love it.
And these cups are from a company called Loveramics. They're doing really interesting things with like the cup shape. If you drink like champagne as opposed to like another wine, you notice the cup is different. And that has primarily started through human error. People were like, oh, this wine tastes better this glass. They weren't quite sure, but using recent science, they've discovered that it's because the lip of the cup distributes it in your mouth differently.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like,
It's a different experience.
yeah, so you'll see like the different cups shapes.
So we brought different cups just to have like kind of like a little bit of a different experience, like each of us. You know?
Nice. Okay.
Love it.
I'll take the smaller one.
Yeah, go.
They're all the same. Same
okay,
portion.
cool.
Yeah, go for
Yeah,
it.
you guys can go for it. Pick your
I like this
cup.
one. This one's looking good.
I think I'm gonna go with this one.
It's like a flute, right?
Yeah, it
All right.
stood out to me. So
Cheers.
So if you can
Cheers.
kind of smell it, kind of smells kind of almost like brown sugar, plum, stuff like that, like stone
sounds
fruit,
really
you know?
good, yeah.
Almost like tea. And if you drink it, there's kind of like an aftertaste there of like a little bit like floral sweetness,
Wow.
almost acidity to it.
Crazy. Yeah, that's crazy. The difference, you know. Like,
And even the taste in your
it's
mouth
like-
afterwards is kind of like
yeah,
good.
usually
It's
like
not
this
coffee
bad-
breath. Yeah.
Ugh. This is actually more like the aftertaste is. You can indulge in the aftertaste
Yeah.
instead of it being like a.
Yeah, it's like a wine. It stays with you.
Right.
Yeah, what do you taste? Like, what notes are you getting?
And as it cools down, it gets even easier because right now the hotness kind of like.
I taste more of like the out of all the ingredients, I taste like more of like the plum and grape.
Okay.
Kinda like that's what I'm getting.
Yeah.
Because because I eat grapes, so like I kind of like recognize that consistency pretty quick.
And then again, when we say grapes and plums, it's not like we're gonna be like, yes, grapes and plums. It's more like we're trying to like get you like kind of in that range of like, okay, like even like the like purple, stone fruit, plum, peach, apricot, like
It's
that
really
that
whatever you
family.
feel.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's that family of like flavors more than it is a specific thing, right? Because there's like, you know, plums, there's apricots, there's so many different fruits. Then there's pastries that use that and that changes a little bit, you know? Then there's dried fruit.
Yeah.
So it's just to kind of get you in kind of going in that direction and understanding what, you know, hey, this is different. This does have something like underneath like kind of the base coffee taste. There's something there. And that's the first thought, you know, you don't have to taste plum, like, you know, we're not like tasting this tastes like plum. Yeah.
I'm allergic to grapes, so I can't eat
Oh, you're
grapes.
good.
Yeah, so exactly. So I'm not gonna say grapes because I have no idea what grapes taste like because I don't feel like going to the hospital right now.
Right.
So it's like
But I eat grapes consistent, so it's like
So we have different experiences.
Yeah, it depends on
Exactly.
like where you grew up. Like there's some fruits that are native to Mexico, they're not native to the U.S. Even going northern U.S., there's different fruits, so people will end up associated with different things.
And then if you sip it and you kind of let it like sit in your mouth a little bit, and then like it also changes, you know. It just as it gets cooler and cooler, you know. the
like
consistency changes.
I'm feeling an experience like on the bottom of my tongue right now.
thank you.
Exactly.
It was really good.
Like,
So
it's just
Yeah.
like it's elevating as as I'm
floral,
like as it's sitting in my tongue.
Yeah.
Like,
It almost doesn't taste like coffee, right?
exactly.
That coffee
Yeah, that was the
taste
number
that we
one
have,
thing.
like coffee candy and coffee this, and it's a specific taste, you know. If you go, it's like I tell people, it's like if you go to the doctor and they give you a blueberry popsicle, right? Or a blueberry like lollipop, and that's all you associate with blueberry. Like him, like, you know, he's never had grapes, right? So imagine if he ever had a real grape before, like real grape, he's gonna be, this doesn't taste like grape, because his thinking is grape tastes like this artificial flavor of grape. Right? But real
Like
grapes
grape
don't
soda
taste
or
anything
something like
like actual grape soda or grape lollipops and stuff like that.
I
you
can't
know?
wait to
It's
get
kinda
more
like
in
that.
depth with it right now.
Yeah, of course.
But this is amazing, and honestly, I've been eyeing these treats that you guys have as well. You got the lemon poppy.
so
Yeah.
do you
The
like
banana
to
bread.
start the podcast?
Okay, yeah, it's kind of like we're getting so intrigued.
Transition.
And it's like great, great environment, great setting, and so I like to get a piece of this.
Yeah, so we just started
almond milk.
baking 2 months ago. We're kind of crazy when it comes to the valley. This kind of coffee scene is not really as like, I guess, known, right? There's a lot of, you go to other shops, it's very kind of like more like I guess pointed towards like sugary drinks, whipped cream, frap stuff. And so we've kind of been like the odd man out. So we're always trying to do different, weird, we're like the weird kid, you know, like just doing like its own thing like in the corner type of thing. So 2 months ago we started baking everything in house. We expanded to suite 4, we're suite 5, and we just started baking. So as just like coffee, we've been doing that. So yeah, so and we're working on some other projects that we'll talk about right now. But yeah.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for this.
Thank you so much.
The roastery.
Essentially, yeah, where we roast coffee, all our production and stuff like that. We do want to start opening for the public Fridays and Saturdays pretty soon now.
Nice.
That's what this bar is here for. But right now it's just production.
Awesome. Please introduce yourselves.
Yes.
Oh, my name's Okly. I'm one of the partners here. I do a lot of like the groundwork, like behind the making of like the flavors and such, like not the actual designing of it, but like the execution day to day, I guess.
Yeah, and I'm Danny. I am the owner here at the shop with my wife, Cynthia, and we do everything from roasting and coming up with drinks and all that fun
Nice.
stuff. Yeah.
So, Danny, how
Awesome.
long have you been in the coffee business, I guess?
So we opened September 2017. So almost 6 years next month. Yeah. So
And have you always been like a kind of like intrigued with coffee and
So yeah,
kinda its
so
origins?
I've kind of been in coffee for like around 10 years. So even though it's 6 years, I've been in coffee for 10. We were roasting for 3 years before we started the shop in like the back room of like friends music school. So kind of doing super Breaking Bad type of stuff. And yeah, but no, I actually hated coffee growing up all the way to like probably high school. There's no coffee. I was definitely like a energy drink kid.
Yeah.
I, motocross stuff and skateboard stuff I always loved. So I was like, coffee's for old people. You know?
So what
Yeah,
sparked your
yeah.
interest?
I had real coffee, kind of what we did right now.
Okay.
I had this coffee from Ethiopia, and so my cousins and my family is out in Tustin, in Orange County.
Okay.
I went into a shop and I had a pour over, and it tasted like blueberries. And I was like, "What the heck is it?" I was like, "Did this person like throw some blueberry like floral something in there?" And I was like, so I went back and I was like to the barista, and I was like, "Hey, is there something in here like a tea or something?" He's like, "No, that's just what coffee's supposed to taste like."
Nice.
And I went back and literally like wrecked my brain. Like I was like, this doesn't make sense.
So
Like, I
Okly,
don't
how long
understand.
have you been here?
Well, I technically was born here, but here at Semilla. Wait, yeah.
Semilla.
Here at Semilla. So 3 years going on 4.
Yeah.
So for me, I discovered coffee when I moved to San Antonio, and I had a friend who worked at a coffee shop, told me to go like check out where he worked. And I went there and I ordered a large cappuccino, and he was like, "Sit down. That doesn't exist." So he was kind of like mean to me for like a couple months, but then I got the hang of it, and then I got the appreciation for coffee. Then I moved down here to the Valley, and I was looking at all the shops. Then I ended up actually working with his brother on music. So I was here just by like location.
Yeah.
And I was ordering stupid stuff because I didn't know Semilla served real coffee.
Very stupid stuff.
Yeah, I was one of the customers that hated it. I was like, "Can I get like cold brew with like milk and a little bit of sugar?" Because I was trying to save what I thought was bad coffee. And then one day, Danny was behind the bar, because he typically wasn't behind the bar at that point, well, at least when I would show up. He was like, "Why don't you try a regular cappuccino?" And I was like, "Y'all do that here?" And then he served me a cap, and then from there I was here getting like real
He
coffee.
had other experiences at other shops, so he just didn't think that type of coffee existed.
Yeah,
down here,
for real.
right?
I was like, "What the heck? We got this down here?" Because I was like trying to, like I said, save what I thought was bad coffee, which I guess was on me because I should have given it like a chance before I threw it under the bus, you know.
Nice.
Yeah.
So tell us your story. Tell us your background.
Well, my parents are from Mexico City. So kind of my dad's a musician. So we moved down here when my mom was pregnant. Type of thing. Mexico City was kind of dangerous and stuff like that. My dad, like I said, was a musician.
Okay, when you say your dad was a musician, you're underselling that. You gotta go into this. You have to go into this.
Who is your father?
Who is your father?
My dad, he plays the piano and his brother plays the guitar. And they were playing with Luis Miguel at the time.
Luis Miguel.
Right?
Yeah.
Nice.
Beautiful.
Wow.
Nice.
That's awesome.
It's a pretty big name here.
That's a huge name here. Yeah.
So they've been musicians for a long time. They played with different artists. They played all the way up to Luis Miguel. They
Sorry to interrupt, but I've seen
Yeah.
a lot of Valley women cry over Luis Miguel. So for us to be here in a good mood, like literally
We're
listening
amongst
to him
royalty.
we joke around. Like I'm not like Sam knows, like I'm not a big like, oh yeah, this and this and like, but yeah. So he
I had
was
to coax that out of him.
Yeah.
He wouldn't have given me that information without me saying,
Very
"Who did your dad
humble.
play for?"
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
very humble. Yeah, that's good. That's
and
a
I
good
mean, I
attribute.
didn't play, so that's all him. But yeah, so we came down here. My dad and my uncle actually start they start like hearing the gospel and stuff like that. So they leave Luis Miguel to start their own Christian band. They take the drummer with them. They start a Christian band called Torre Fuerte, and they kind of like do like kind of go really big as well. Then my dad starts a Bible study in the apartment, and now like he's a pastor of a church here in Reynosa, Monterrey. So it's expanded for sure. And this church kind of started reaching people in the industry in Mexico City. So it started in Mexico City, and now there's one in Spain and one in like everywhere.
Oh man,
here
how
and stuff
beautiful.
like that.
That's
That's
awesome.
beautiful to turn to his belief and leave all that, and especially the dynamic and where he was in the atmosphere, to leave that and go follow what his passion truly is. That takes a lot, and especially the platform that Luis Miguel has.
Yeah.
To leave that and to do what he loves.
Well, for the drummer to leave and believe in his father, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and the cool thing is, my dad was the piano player. His brother, his only brother, was a guitar player for Luis Miguel, and he was like the musical director for Luis Miguel as well. So they take the drummer with them. So with all three of them, it's essentially a whole band, right? So that's what starts the band. They start writing, they start doing their thing. You know, the stadiums get like filled with like their Christian music and stuff like that.
How amazing,
And then in
man.
that, just preaching to like different like artists as well. I don't know if you guys have heard of Yuri, Maria El Sol, like people that are also big, started kind of like coming to the Bible studies, and they even did like, records with them.
I don't want to sit here in front. I don't know who that is, but I'm pretty sure some of our listeners might. So.
Yeah, Yeah. Yuri's a big name. She kind of like did a couple albums. She was Christian stuff. Now she's kind of gone back to like her thing. So she's pretty big, still in Mexico. Now kind of back to where she was, kind of thing. Which, you know, happy or sad or whatever you want to see it. But yeah, so she's a pretty big name as well, but that's how essentially the church started. There's actually a crazy story too. There's a band called Control Machete from Monterrey, and they were like the biggest rap kind of like gangster like type of thing in the 2000s.
Nice.
And he started going to church in Mexico City and just getting discipled by my uncle. My uncle decides to open a church in Chicago and leaves him as the pastor. So right now the pastor is an ex like rapper.
Wow. Yeah. So your father has a huge network. And
And the other pastor, he's met Raulito. Yeah. He was like the bass player for like Shakira and the bass player for, so a lot of like music
best
and
bass
stuff
player
like that.
you'll ever hear.
And it's
Hands
crazy.
down.
Yeah, it's crazy like how that music, they have their own environment and there's their own like social, you know, networking within the music community, and it's just amazing to see. And like you get to know like and network so well with other people that have been a part of those things. So it's like
and that's been great. We still have some family. Some of my cousins are still. One of my cousins, she's like a producer in Sony in Mexico. She's actually gonna do her like what was she gonna do? The
debut
live
as like
engineering.
a live engineering,
and for a Dominic Fike show next weekend or this weekend. So she's doing all that stuff.
How cool.
So the music industry is definitely something that we're kind of close in, but I play guitar, but there came a point in my life where I was like, hey, you know, filling these shoes.
I mean, you got a lot of inspiration in front of you. From your father.
Yeah.
So that led you to do.
Exactly. Yeah. And there was a point where my dad was like, hey, if you practice 8 hours a day, like you have it in you type of thing. And I was like, practice 8 hours a day. Damn. Like that's crazy, you know? And even then, like just seeing like kind of like musicians and great music, we know great musicians and stuff like that play with pretty big names and everything. It was still kind of like, man, this is a lot of work, and a lot of it is not as appreciated, at least in Mexico and stuff. Like musicians still struggle, you know. He's a great musician. He's got a day job, you know what I'm saying? So
For sure.
So there came a point where I was like, you know what? I don't know if I want to commit to this thing. Plus, just even filling the shoes of like, even if I get to the point where I am playing at the level my dad is, you know, it's, you know, there's a certain point of like luck and connections and stuff involved, like in anything. But I definitely feel like, yes, there was a lot of talent on behalf of my dad and my uncle. But there's also like just like social, you know, we talk about that all the time, how like, you know, even people that play with Justin Bieber, there's probably like, you know, thousands of people that play at that level, but it also has to be with like the way they dress, the way they get along with him. You know, there's a big social aspect to where he's like, okay, I want you to be my drummer.
Yeah. Oakley would be a good. What do you play, Oakley?
Primarily guitar.
Primarily guitar, because I've seen you play multiple instruments. Yeah, I was gonna say I've seen you play multiple instruments. So what's your primary? The guitar?
Yeah, the guitar.
Oh, Justin Bieber pick you up quick.
Right? That's what
he's got like.
If you hear this, Justin, hit me up.
Yeah, Justin, if you're hearing this, Oakley's a great player. So you started with guitar, and that led you to what?
So I actually started with violin.
Okay.
And then I really wanted to play the drums. And my dad was like, you have to get, like, there's like a whole grading system for a specific way of learning violin. He's like, you have to reach this level, this book, before you can start playing the drums. So I worked really hard on the violin because I wanted to play the drums. Yeah, which makes total sense. So then I started playing the drums. And then a church I was going to at the time needed a guitar player. So I was like, I could try. And I picked up guitar at the age of 18 and I fell in love with it. So.
Nice. And then ever since then, it kind of just sparked your interest into music.
Yeah.
And then with music, you had to stay awake, right? Because you had a lot of gigs, so you went into coffee. Is how you kind of?
For sure. Yeah.
Pretty much. So, but going back to you.
Yeah.
So after you, I mean, you moved to
McAllen. Yeah, my parents moved to McAllen. I'm born here, right? Mm-hmm. And we just spend time here and in Mexico City, right? Because that's kind of where my dad's base was. Yeah. Church starts over there, right? Later on. Then my dad starts the Bible study here in his house. And then that kind of starts blowing up. So then it kind of starts the church here. And then so the next step after Torre Fuerte, which is that band, is they start reaching people, and then this rapper guy, they start doing like kind of like what Hillsong does in the whole like bringing artists to like be a part of albums and like doing more like church music albums with these artists and stuff like that. And they called it Semilla Mostaza, and that's what the church called, right? So Semilla Mostaza is what the church is called, and they did a couple albums with that. And so that's essentially what they did. church starts here, and then my dad's and my mom are kind of okay, well now we have to get kind of serious. Comes a point where my parents are like, hey, we don't like we can't live here, we don't have papers, like what do we do? So they apply for like a normal residency, denied. So my mom's like, well, why don't we like apply for this crazy residency that's called extraordinary abilities, right? Okay, give it to Michael Jordan, Tiger Woods type of people. My dad's like, dude, that's ridiculous. Like, there's no way that's gonna be a thing. Like, I'm not Michael Jordan, but my mom's like, you have a couple international awards, you have a Grammy, blah blah blah. Maybe this could never know. Let's shoot our shot. So they do it and they get it. So that's kind of like how my parents become kind of like established here.
That's so awesome.
And the relief you get with that and stuff, and like
that gave me goosebumps.
What a wonderful. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome, and that's crazy.
It's a beautiful story.
By the way, that's the first time I've heard about the Grammy. Like, he doesn't talk about this. I've never heard that story.
They're not my accolades. So it's
right.
So you're here in McAllen, and.
Yeah. So I go to elementary, I go middle school, high school here, but we're like a lot in Mexico City. Right. A lot of my culture, a lot of like, just ideas, and like even like the coffee stuff has been a lot of like just traveling, seeing the world. And I've been blessed enough to be able to do that because of my dad's type of job, right? You either preaching or singing or doing something outside of the space, of like the valley, and I'm able to see, and then like you said, like inspiration based off that, and just like the arts in general, right? And I think that coffee was the one where like it just bit me type of thing.
You found your art,
I found the art in it, exactly, and it was just like, dude, like you don't know what coffee is, and like, I know what coffee is, everyone knows what. And then it was like, dude, but like coffee is this, and like when I would talk to my friends about it, they would look at me like I'm crazy, like, okay, coffee's a fruit, like the farmers, like what are you talking about, type of thing. Like coffee's like I can grab it at 7-Eleven, like what are you talking about? And that was like, no, like. And I think that's still the thing that kind of bit him. And I
think that's a fire you have within you. It's like wanting to make that public, right?
Exactly.
Wanting to teach everybody about coffee. Yeah.
And then just coming from like a third world country like Mexico, I've been to farms. I've seen Peace People. Another like fun fact, I guess you want to call it that, is coffee is harvested once a year. One coffee plant gives 1 pound of coffee per year, right? You think of these farms, let's say 1,000 plants, that's 1,000 pounds. That over there, one bag of that is 160 pounds, right? So that's like what? Like 9 bags for the whole year.
I'm not really good at math, so you're gonna have to break that down for me.
It's a lot of math, but essentially we're talking about like, I don't know, $3,000, $4,000 like in a year, and they have to live off that hard. And if it doesn't rain as much, you have to sell it a little bit less. If there's something happens, there's always variables in the weather and growing crops that can like change things. So that type of thing, like, we get, Okly gets a lot of the credit. Yeah, my favorite barista. And I'm like, that's awesome. But we always like reel it back to like, and then Cynthia, she's the one that's roasting now. Oh, Cynthia's the best roaster. His coffee is so great. But then it's like, there's a third story, before Cynthia, which is the farmer level. And I think that's where kind of I'm at. And I would kind of divide it in that, like, I'm more farm level, Cynthia's more of the roaster, and then Sam's that like barista that gives it to the customer. And you guys are the last part of that story,
And so who's the middleman? Because that's always the most intriguing person.
The middleman of what?
There's like
the distribution.
Getting it here.
Yeah, so we work with a company called Royal. They essentially rent out these containers to us, and we're able to, there's different ports in different cities around like Africa, Central America, South America, and we're able to connect with farmers, and then the farmers drop them off at the port, and we're able to rent like a piece of the container. We're not at the point where we can we rent a whole container out yet. But we would love to get to that point. One day. But so right now we just rent a little, like, we have a rental for a container, throw it in there, bring it across the world.
So the middleman's temporary.
Yeah, it's only temporary. We want to cut him out. That's all I know. I've seen a lot of like these crime scene movies, right? And they talk about narcos, right? And I said, well, I watched Narcos. And I think you just want to always
different ideas.
I'm sorry.
Similar.
I thought we just cut the middleman out. Is that the number one important rule?
I mean, the cool thing about the cool thing about this company is like, it's super cool because they like connect us to like the different farmers, right? Because we've been been in Mexico, we've been in but we've never been to Ethiopia. One day again, but you know, just like Narcos, you got to go visit Ethiopia to make that connection. Cut the middleman out. So this middleman and this scenario is a good middleman. It's still direct trade because he connects us to the farmer. We're able to talk to them, and then we're able to purchase from it and just rent out.
Well, when it comes to coffee, cutting out the middleman isn't always a good idea until you like establish a relationship with not only the farmers but also the ports. Because I was talking to this guy who owns a coffee shop in Chicago, and he's a good friend of ours. He comes here like a couple times a year to visit family. And he was saying how he quit buying through a middleman, went directly, and it's cool for him because he has a huge shop that sells a ton. But then when
did he have a gold chain?
He has one. No, he has one, but he sells coffee to a lot of like coffee shops there in the city. And he was like, "Well, my coffee got stuck at the port, and that's like $2,000 a day." While customs is waiting to check every single bag. So he's like 5 days and I'm out 10 grand. And that's, so that's why these middlemen having a good relationship with like the distributors and us, and then the ports, it's like saves us a hassle. Cause a lot of smaller shops can't take the hit. Heck no.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to ask, how'd you find Okly?
That's a great question. So, like he
was wandering around.
I hated him as a customer because he would ask for some random stuff. No, I'm just kidding. No, he did.
I know what I am.
His my brother had a band. So I've known Okly, or we've known of each other. We can kind of go down a rabbit hole in that scenario, but we've known of each other, if that makes sense, or known each other since we were almost kids. We have like a kind of common friend together. Speaking of middlemen.
Who's the middleman between the friendship? Cut him out.
Let's just say,
you don't have to go.
Let's just say like there was someone who was like trying to play both sides. Like we knew of each other, but we also hate each other because this lady was telling like him that my family was like some sort of weird religious like cultish people, and then she was telling me that him and his brother were beating up their son. So and then it was
everything kind of vibed then.
Yeah, we were like, dude, we hate this kid. Let's do it together.
No, so yeah, when I think you came back, and then my brother was like, "Yo, Sam's really cool." And I was like, "No, bro, that's that weird guy with the Colt family." No? And he's like, "No, dude." He's like, "She's really cool. He's been helping me with music stuff." So next door in that 2-story building, my dad has his church offices on top. And he rents that out. And then we had like a little music studio going on there. My brother did, where we just record stuff. And him and Sam were working on stuff. And he was kind of coming back to the valley after kind of a crazy motorcycle accident, which we can kind of get into his story as well. But yeah, so he was getting back into it, kind of like seeing what, kind of like as creative people, like, you know, you start connecting and just like wanting to be part of, you know, something kind of bigger than you know? And he was connecting with him, and my brother's like, "You should give Sam a job. He needs a job." And I was like, "Bro, he orders some crazy stuff." He does not know.
The shit he orders, man.
Yeah, exactly.
And he's part of a cult.
He's like, look, I'll teach him. I'll teach him.
Right.
Just hire him. I'll teach him. Just let's keep him around. He's helping me out. Like, he needs a job. I was like, all right, you know? And then just getting to know him, mainly like what kind of like caught my eye at first was like, this man will die on any hill, you know, type of thing. So once he believes in something, like he believes in it type of thing. And more than even believing in Semilla, he kind of shared that like belief of like farmers and coffee and doing things that way.
He believed in your vision.
Yeah, exactly. And just like specialty coffee, you know, and it's so hard to find people that kind of have that like-mindedness, that like down here especially. And it was just like, no, like, I would just like kind of tell him stuff, and I could see him kind of like, no, you're right. And soon we started doing this duo, this good cop, bad cop thing. I'm kind of like the good cop, hey, you know, coffee, and he's the dude with the megaphone, you know, you're going to hell, you know. so like we do this good cop, bad cop, and it just works.
I get that.
So I mean, this man will literally be like, "Oh, you don't want to support farmers and their families, you know, they're not getting an education." And I'm like, yo, chill.
I'm not lying though.
But no, it's true.
It's true.
And I'm just like, man, maybe the delivery, and there's some people that, you know,
delivery's there. He knows how to deliver.
Exactly. So a lot of people love that unapologeticness of like, I'm gonna tell you what I believe in.
I love it.
And I think that's what kind of was like, hey, like I can learn something from him too, you know? Like maybe I shouldn't be scared to be like, you know what, this is what we believe in, and you know, if you don't like it, that's cool, bro. That's not for you.
Then you're not part of the cult.
It is always scary trying to expand on your vision because like you're afraid of what people have to say, or like they just might not get it.
Exactly.
But it's just a different communication skill that you end up developing, and like you understand that people are really open to hearing what you have to say.
Yeah, and people are passionate about what other people are passionate about, right? So
it's like believing in something bigger than you.
Exactly.
Like you said.
And then transferring that into your business mostly too, is that you're not just trying to own a business, you're trying to bring light to the fact of what you are doing here. And that's like number one. As for yourself and Mr. Alex Velasco here and his business owner, Jose, you guys bring that vision and what you guys want to project into your business. It's not just owning the business, right?
Yeah.
And
it's about something bigger than that.
It's about something bigger than that. And that's like the number one thing. And I think that's how businesses thrive, looking from the outside in.
Yeah.
You guys deal with this on the day to day. So
Yeah. When you believe in something that hard, you start, kind of like other people start getting bit by the bug, and I think that's what happened with Sam. And now, we've created this kind of like great, like kind of partnership and, so now,
amazing.
And I guess we can talk about a little bit about his story and kind of how he came to the Valley and now kind of what we're doing with Living Way and all that stuff.
Why don't we start off with that accident?
Yeah, what happened there?
Okay. Oh man. So
Second,
it was a dark and stormy night. I'm just kidding. It was 2:00 on a Tuesday. I was trying to be as careful as I could because I didn't ride.
I love how he comes out and he's not like, I really expected him to get emotional, but he's like,
it was 2:00 on a Tuesday. It was a bit, rainy and foggy outside.
See, I love motorcycles. I have another one over there. My mom thinks it's a terrible idea. It might be, but it's fun. And I'd rather like die living than like live a life where I'm scared of like dying.
I love it. Yeah, I love it, man.
So I was just riding my bike to go visit my friend who worked at Starbucks, ironically. Okay. That's what it was. It was the Lord just striking me down. It's like, do not go there.
Over roasted coffee, right?
Yeah. Exactly. But I was just driving down the street.
On the way to Damascus.
Yeah, basically. And a new driver driving less than 48 hours, just bought a new car off the lot. Wasn't looking where she was going, pulled out of an HEB and hit me. I was going about 55. I flew about 60 feet. Yeah, I broke a lot of bones.
Did you have a helmet on?
I did. I had full gear on. I had like this really cool like denim jacket, so I have zero road rash because it was like Kevlar infused denim. But I broke.
Did you wear denim on denim that day, or was it? I'm just
Canadian
saying.
tuxedo.
Probably, I didn't really think about it. I was like, well, this is going to protect me if I almost die today.
Yeah.
And luckily I was wearing it.
Wow.
Yeah, I was wearing a helmet, but I broke my nose through it, broke my orbital.
Did you knock out or?
No, I was pretty aware of the whole thing. Like I remember like as I hit the car, I remember hitting their windshield with my helmet and being like, that hurt. And then I remember thinking I have to tuck and roll when I hit the ground. Then as I was rolling, I remember thinking I have to land on my back because if a limb is missing, if I'm severely injured, it's easier to put me on a stretcher. So as I was rolling, I landed on my back.
As you're rolling, you're thinking of
and then
we joke about he used to be 6'2" actually.
Yeah.
Now he's 5'4".
And I could see colors before the accident.
Yeah, all this stuff happened out there.
So talk about that. You're colorblind now because of the accident.
Yeah, no, I'm just kidding. I was born colorblind.
He was 6'2" before.
So you lost your height.
Colors are gone.
Yeah, I almost lost my leg too.
Okay, damn. Or let's take a serious.
So what happens? Like you.
So my friend who was working at Starbucks, like one of the best guys I've ever met. Like we've been homies since like middle school.
Now he works at a real shop.
Yeah, now he runs a really cool shop in San Antonio called Local. It's at the Pearl. If you're ever there, check it out.
They're about to open a coffee truck. They're going to buy coffee from us.
Yeah,
nice.
We're just trying to figure all that stuff out.
So then.
So basically, I thought I was pretty much okay. And like the paramedics that were there said, hey, we think you broke your foot. Just go to specialist, go to ER or whatever. And I'm like, I don't want to pay a stupid like bill to get driven to a hospital. So I called, of course, you call your homies to come pick you up on the side of the road. Like, hey, I just almost died. You want to take me to the ER? Yeah. So we took me to an ER across the street. They're like, okay, I have to send you to a specialist. This whole ordeal. And we find out I'd broken like my leg in several places. I'd shattered my foot. And like they told me that they were probably going to amputate my leg.
Oh, wow.
I was probably going to amputate my leg. They said at least amputate my foot. Best case scenario for me going forward was I was going to walk with a cane. And that's what I'd accepted as my reality. So then I spent the next 7 months in a bed. Well, in a bed. Like doctors tell you to be in a bed, but like, come on. There's no way you're doing that.
Right. Yeah.
So I had a lot of great friends in San Antonio. There's a church up there called Pearl Street. Amazing church. Great people.
Helped you mentally through it.
Yeah, but also like aside from that, like I needed something to do with my life. Their worship leader Mario, one of my best friends ever. Like that guy is like an amazing person. He would drive to my apartment, pick me up from the 3rd floor, bring my guitar and pedal board down, and I would play on stage sitting down every Sunday.
Man stayed in a 3rd-story apartment.
Wow. Every Sunday.
Yeah, and like he said, I'll die on any hill. I didn't move. My mom was like, come down. Like, no, I have 6 months left on this rent. I'm going to pay it. I'm going to pay all my bills. I'm going to be up here because I'm the strong, independent man, you know?
Yeah.
Even though I'm stuck in a
I love it. I love it.
My mom being a mother, my mom's from Guanajuato. She's like motherly as can be. She drove up there, like made me like food for like months. I'm like, Mom, thank you so much. I love you. But I'm trying to do this by myself. And like not trying to like reject her like love, obviously, but just trying to figure out what I was doing because we didn't think it was that serious.
Right.
So then basically I had accepted my fate as like someone who's gonna live with one leg. And then I like it was a whole lot of mental struggle and also just like a struggle with like my faith and trying to figure out what I'm gonna do with my life. And I went to a doctor here, fully mentally prepared to be like last surgery prep and then walk into surgery and lose my leg or whatever the future held. Then I walked into that doctor's office and he said, I'm looking at your CT scans from then, I'm looking at your CT scans from now, I'm doing tests on you. This makes no sense, but just go walk. And I was like, I don't know what you guys believe. I believe in like God and Jesus. Right. And I don't think there's another explanation for that. Like there's no reason why I should be here walking, why I walked in this building, why I ran a 5K last year, if doctors told me I was never gonna walk again.
All right. Mm-hmm. That's amazing.
Beautiful, man. Well, you have a lot of fight in you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now you're what height? Sorry.
Now
5'4.5".
Now we're
5'5" legally.
Right.
That's
I'm 5'4.5".
There's no
Stand
way
on your coffee. You're 6'2".
Yeah.
And now he just bought a new motorcycle a couple 2 months ago. He's
something like that.
So you started writing again.
Yeah.
Just recently.
Yeah, well, customers like that know like that I was in an accident always come by like, hey, try to ride my motorcycle. I'm like, okay, so I'd test ride it and whatnot. I'm like, I miss it so much, and I like bought 2.
In the last.
Well, you have a beautiful one over here.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I like fixing things with my hands. It's part of why I like coffee because it's very like hands-on.
Yeah.
Right.
And like motorcycles are the same way, especially if you buy old bikes. That's a 1970 and that's a 1980. 1980 is gonna like take a ton of work just to get it running, but that one is so much fun if you like tinkering with things because you have to like make adjustments as you ride it, or it's gonna die on.
Say it for the people. What is that bike?
What?
What is that bike? Say it for the people.
It's a 1970 CB 350. Yeah.
Nice.
We'll try to get a photo of that.
Yeah, we'll try to get a photo. It's just to show it. Yeah, so people could see it.
Yeah. So you like work, like you like being hands-on, right? Mm-hmm. Have you thought about doing ASMR videos with Putty?
Okay, so this is very odd. I hate weird textures, but I love raw sushi. I don't know why. I was a weird kid who hated playing with Play-Doh. I hated playing with Play-Doh.
You hated Play-Doh?
Because it smells weird.
What about Legos?
I love Legos.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's this pretty solid texture there.
Yeah.
Is it Picasso
So you-
of Legos? Because
You moved from the valley from San Antonio when?
Like
3. You said 3 years, 4 years.
At here in Semilla, but I was here for about a year before I started working. A year and a half before I started working here, I think.
So you started doing music stuff with my brother for a year before you worked here, right?
Okay, and you got all your education about coffee here.
Yeah, I gained an appreciation for coffee in San Antonio. I learned how to make it and the real like behind the scenes and all that stuff here.
So now the tables kind of have turned, right? You've showed your San Antonio peeps a couple of stuff.
Yeah, like it's odd because like it's fine to say as a consumer. I'm not blaming anyone for not knowing all this stuff, but like the coffee knowledge in San Antonio is way higher than it is here. Even like the average consumer typically doesn't put like sugar in their coffee. They like it black. They know what they're getting. They're more knowledgeable about the ethics of where it's coming from. So there's a lot of great shops up there. So I was like, I guess, an informed consumer. Once I started coming to me and working here, then I understood like what goes into it behind the scenes.
Right. So when you get 100% pure coffee and then you get baking soda and you like, are we in the same realm? No.
Baking soda with what?
You break it down? No,
baking soda?
Sorry. Never mind. Maybe I'm thinking about something else. You know?
Don't put baking soda in your coffee, please.
Please don't do that.
So it gets 100% pure and then you break it down to 70.
We got to teach Adrian.
I'm sorry, man. I keep on referring back to Narcos. I'm sorry.
I don't have time to watch TV. When I do watch TV, I just rewatch The Office.
That's similar to the blend stuff we were talking about, right?
Nice.
The baking soda could be just the crappy coffee, and the good stuff could be
it is
the other
pretty.
stuff.
Yeah, it's pretty similar, right?
Similar.
So,
yeah, you're cutting out the quality and just
lowering
it
costs.
as a whole.
And you can't call it blue magic, right?
Yeah,
I don't know if you guys seen American Gangster, but
I have not.
I have not.
Yeah, Joseph, you seen American Gangster?
I thought you were saying like blue from like what's it called? Breaking Bad.
Oh yeah, Breaking Bad.
You
Yeah.
know, I'm colorblind. These glasses help me see colors. I watched that whole show not knowing it was actually blue. I thought they just called it blue. And they're like, no, you can see like the blue stuff from the white stuff. And I was like, fine, cool.
I have yet to see that show, so
You need to check it out. It's really good.
Yeah.
It's a good
Oh
show.
well.
All right, so let's get into Semilla.
Right.
When you started Semilla, what did you offer? How did you start? Like, what was the process of getting started?
So I tell Sam a little bit, kind of like, so it kind of like was like, okay, we're gonna go into, like, we saw the building and it was like, kind of like, man, this is like not the space that I was envisioning, kind of thing. But it was kind of like, it used to be a lawyer's office, I think, and it was just like wood paneling like all over. And I was like, man, like, okay, well, I have this, you know, I had like $5,000, and I was like, and I had a big setup at home, to be honest, like an espresso machine, like big for home, right? Not big for actually commercial. So kind of, well, I guess going back, so we've been roasting for 2-3 years now. We drove to Memphis to get that small roaster. We're roasting. My dad's like, yeah, it's cool that, you know, you're roasting, you know, super ghetto out of like, you know, music school. Because we didn't even know, like, we needed like that ventilation event. Yeah. So we were just like running it with like gas masks and stuff. So me and my wife at the time, she was my girlfriend. I was just like kind of super into it, and she was like kind of helped me out and stuff like that. And so we saw that space. He's like, hey, maybe you should start thinking about renting just a small space, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, so I met this dude named Micah. He's a crazy carpenter, super cool guy. He has an orphanage in Reynosa. He's a white guy, lives in Reynosa, which is kind of crazy, you know. He runs an orphanage over there. We became friends. He kind of like built the bar out, built like a bunch of stuff out. He built this bar.
This is a beautiful bar.
He's done like a bunch of stuff, kind of like free, like type of thing.
Nice.
And it's just like just helping us and stuff like that. Also kind of believing in the vision type of thing.
Yeah.
So we kind of saved a lot of money there. Then the city of McAllen comes in and is like, hey, you guys need a grease trap. Like, wait, what? Like, we've looked into it. We don't need a grease trap. We don't use grease or anything. Well, in McAllen, you need a grease trap.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. How much is a grease trap? You know, $5,000. Well, that's the whole budget, right? So we're like, okay. So I get a dude. I'm like, well, I guess we're going to start off with some like picnic tables, or I don't know, you know, we're just going to have to get a grease trap in. So the plumber dude comes, opens where it says like I guess what does it says drain or sewer or whatever. Yeah, it says sewer. And he's like, dude, you have a grease trap in here. What are you talking about? So I'm like, what? So I call the landlord. He's like, oh yeah, there was a baker that tried to do like a bakery in there, like, you know, like a year ago, but it like we got in a fight and she left. And you can't take the grease trap out of the ground, right? So like the plumber's like, why'd you call me, bro? Like I thought you need a grease trap. I put this grease trap in here. And I'm like, oh dang, like what the heck? And so I called the owner. He says that. I'm like, well, yeah, thanks for letting me know. He's like, oh, I'm sorry about that. I'm like, yeah, don't let it happen again. You know, I'm like, dang, bro, that was
I'm
so
pissed.
lucky. Yeah. So anyway, that happens. We have a grease trap, you know.
Lucky you.
Homie
Yes.
hooks it up with like the construction and all this stuff as well, helps out. And yeah, so we kind of like start getting it going and stuff like that. I'm here from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. every day, essentially. Like,
What was your menu like?
It was so, like I tell Sam, so I'm a firm believer in being firm and flexible. I understand I'm in the Valley. I understand that we have to kind of cater to people. You know, all of us drink black coffee. I wish we could just do black coffee and be like, no, screw you. You don't like black coffee, man. You know, but dude, that's not the reality, you know, type of thing. But when we started, it was like latte, cappuccino, pour over, like period.
That's it.
Like, here's some sugar if you want to throw that in the latte. There's no vanilla. There's no, because I was a firm believer in there's not going to be like, I'm not going to buy Torino syrups. I'm not going to buy Monin. I'm not going to buy any of that stuff. So there's not like, coffee is such a special thing to me. I'm not going to throw another ingredient that's not to the level of where this coffee's at, right?
Right.
So we just started it that way. And then slowly we've been, like I said, firm in that belief of like, we don't do really Oreos or whipped cream or anything like that. But we've been flexible in the sense of like, okay, well, let's use different drinks to try to draw people in, and yeah, convert them to black coffee, but slowly, you know, and like kind of like, but respecting that coffee is such a special and dope thing that we mix it with stuff that is worth mixing it with. You know?
I love it.
That's kind of how it started. Now we have a vanilla latte, but it's a vanilla saffron latte. We make the vanilla from scratch using vanilla bean. There's no vanilla extract, vanilla paste. It's vanilla bean.
I just had a vanilla saffron.
That's awesome. You're on a big mission here because you're basically reprogramming people
and in a difficult area too.
Yeah, on how to drink coffee.
Big bubble. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's how we started. And 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. every day. We were roasting this little 1 pounder. Since we've opened, we've roasted. A lot of places kind of sometimes start off with like, okay, we'll buy coffee from this place, and then we'll slowly transition to roasting. But you see that big gap in like, you're buying this coffee and now you're learning. So it takes a big dip. And I was like, I'm going to start off, even if my coffee is maybe not the best, I'm going to start off here and like slowly grow instead of like, just like, oh, I'm going to do like this and then I'm going to take the dip, you know? Right. And even then, like, honestly, we've always sacrificed, quantity over quality, right? That 1 pound roaster is like a $6,000 roaster, but it's 1 pound. So you, every 15, 20 minutes, you get 1 pound of coffee out of it.
I think about what you're trying to do, and it's crazy too, because you think about people as, being a human being, everybody reserves to comfort and ritual, right? Routine. Yeah. So you think about their morning routines, which was, mine was going to get a venti cold brew. Yeah. And then now it's getting a vanilla self-brand, right? Yeah. And it's like changing that routine and changing that ritual and changing the perspective is like a very difficult task. And you guys are actually
you're doing it the right way.
Doing it the right way.
Yeah, and it's hard because I tell people coffee is it's like you said, a ritual, something that you put in your body kind of daily, right? So imagine throwing Windex, like you're drinking like a bottle of Windex or a venti Windex every day. Like it's chemicals, like you're throwing that stuff in your body. Like, because if you drink a Starbucks, like we're talking about like not taste, right? But like just like for your health, like if you drink a Starbucks every, it's like drinking a Coke. Like I drink a Coke every now and then, like, you sometimes you do that and it's okay. But people that drink Starbucks usually drink that every morning, right? And in a big size. Right. And it's like you said, a ritual. So the more you do that, the more you're throwing that stuff in your body. Right. So we kind of believe in the opposite. So even though, vanilla saffron does have sugar, but it's like, it's natural sugar. There's natural no like corn syrups or crazy stuff in there.
And it's, the part of that is like, aside from just like it being sugar, it takes a lot of work just to make it. So you appreciating it is what convinced me, because at first I was like, oh heck no sugar. But then it takes a lot to make the vanilla, and you're like, oh, this is the best vanilla I've had, or something like that. I'm like, I'm glad because I sit there and I make it. And at first I approached it like, this is such a waste of time, people are ruining coffee. But like he was saying, you have to approach it like it's an ingredient, and we're making like almost like look at it as like a dessert, but it's a drink, but it's natural and it's like handmade.
Yeah, just like to where it's equal to what the farmers are going through too. You know, what the roast, like I'm gonna do that, but we're gonna do it like you said, the right way, instead of like just like throwing.
And when did you guys introduce baking into your?
So that's 2 months ago. So
2 months ago.
Pretty recent. Yeah. So we expanded. So the story is, so we started Suite 5. We did that for around 3.5 years. Then we saw this garage that was like, had like a little house next to it too, like a little barn thingy.
I didn't know
like,
this was here.
Yeah, a lot of people were like, where would you guys build that? No, it was just the owner had like a car and some randoms. It was a piece of crap in here. Yeah. It didn't have, so we threw insulation, we threw drywall, we paint, the ACs are us.
That is where we're at.
So we did.
There's also a whole patio as well.
There's a whole patio where we've done like our anniversaries now. We do a big like anniversary party. We had like 2,500 people like last October. Wow. Now we have that big space where
2,500 people. That's packed.
That's crazy.
For a coffee shop, I'm like, we should start like a cold.
Going back to your origins.
So like being so sticking like to your vision, right? Yeah. Like you've obviously been disruptive in the space here in the Valley. Yeah. Like with coffee, right? And having to reprogram people on how to drink coffee and your passion for coffee. I think that's what's really helped you grow, because like you said, like you could start a cult. I mean, like being disruptive actually brings a lot of light to you. Yeah. And we've seen it like with Fork to Fit. Yeah. And being disruptive in the space of reprogramming people on how to eat correctly.
Exactly.
So, and we've gotten a lot of light from it. Like we've been able to grow like that. So I think what you're doing is
similar, very similar.
It's similar but it's with coffee. And I think that's why you have so much attention, and you have 2,500 people showing up at your spot. Like
people that believe in the vision.
And a lot of the stuff too, like that we've done kind of to do that apart from coffee has been the creative space. I think like especially creatives in the Valley kind of feel like where there's no like space for me. There's no people that are similar or like-minded than me. And I feel like we've like naturally, without being like creatives come here, it's been like kind of like, hey, let's like do stuff together. You guys, okay, coffee's an art. Okay, this and this, So like a lot of musician friends that we've met through anniversaries, and then the merch that we've done. We've always kind of like pushed the boundaries on merch as well, and just like so we do like one big merch drop per year, and that's gotten a lot of attention, and that's kind of brought a lot of people in.
I love the merch, by the way. That's awesome.
I mean, that's what caught my attention, to be honest. I saw a Semilla shirt and I was like, oh, that's cool. I
gotta send me a button on right now.
Nice. Yeah, and then
Mickey with the 2.6 shooters.
People love to talk about Semilla Coffee, and it's awesome.
It's a culture, it's a lifestyle, just like
and that's what. I mean, that's what you're bringing here to the Valley. So that's awesome.
So that's what we've been trying to do. And again, firm, flexible. Trying to that. We just introduced the Turkish one that we were talking about. We introduced that 2-3 months ago.
Yeah. Well, we did a soft launch. We officially launched it a month ago. It was because we tried to focus group things like a regular, or if you guys come in and hey, you want to try something that's kind of in the works, and then see if you like it, if you don't, or see what you want to change about it. But it's been about a month.
And I usually only scratch.
I usually only eat turkey legs at livestock shows.
No, that's funny because people come in here and they're like, "Can I have a turkey latte?" And I'm like,
"A turkey latte?
Thanksgiving? You mean Turkish?" And they're like, "Yeah, Turkish." So
no, I want a turkey leg and a coffee.
Or, the best one is we have a drink called the Gibraltar. And nobody
nobody
can pronounce that word.
Everyone comes in here and says something like that, and we're like Gibraltar, and that
I probably come in here and say jabroni because Dwayne the Rock Johnson. He's got me saying that.
No, and we could do a whole segment about what customers, stories, bro. Because customers are, and you guys probably too. Have funny customers.
I'm definitely one of them, to be honest. I'm definitely a funny customer, I could say.
Yeah, people come in here all the time. They're like, "What's good?" And you're like, "Bro, what does that mean?"
The worst part is they're like, "What do you drink?" I'm like,
black coffee.
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie to you. Be like,
half of the time, and he like I said, he'll down and he'll be like black coffee, and I'm like, dude, you're wasting 30 minutes of your life because they're gonna get vanilla, type of thing. So I just I cut through the BS, cut the middleman. Yeah. It's like, bro, my favorite's the vanilla. I don't even drink the vanilla one, but I know that's what you want.
Yeah. Have you guys seen those videos of a waitress and they go sit down at the table and they're like, what do you guys serve here? And then she gives them the menu and she's like, well, if you open your eyes.
Yeah, it's kind of like how it is. Like, man,
I think sharing your story a little bit more and your vision and the passion behind Semilla Coffee is definitely going to get a lot of more people drinking black coffee. Yeah. Just like doing this podcast here. Yeah. I think so many people are going to learn a lot about coffee just watching this, and they're going to want to come try just black coffee.
And part of it is you don't have to like it. As long as you appreciate this is different. I always try to tell people if they say something like I don't want it too sweet, a little sweet, I'm like, okay, I'm going to give you a regular iced latte. We can add sugar afterwards. So I want you to see if that's what you're going for. And a lot of times people are like, I want it like that without any sugar, because they've never had coffee roasted properly because basically Sparklet's version, coffee is kind of like an onion. If you roast it properly, there's a lot of sugar in there that can be caramelized. So with Cynthia roasting and taking care of all of that, we're able to basically execute that into the coffee.
You don't want to burn because if you over roast it, you burn it. If you under roast it, it's still a vegetable. Literally, the coffee will taste vegetable-y,
Tomato
soup. We're talking about onions. Yeah.
Tomato soup.
But when you caramelize it, it's sweet, right? Yeah. And that's what you want. But that's the art of roasting. Yeah. And so like you said, we started with that 1 pounder. And the next step up was that 6 pounder, and it was 25K. And we're like, bro, 25K?
Wow.
How?
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah.
And we were like, so we actually had the owners of Komori. We were going to sell coffee to all the Komoris because they still come. And they're like, we want coffee. And then we went to to their headquarters and we're like, all right, we need to set up this coffee, these coffee machines and all. And it was just a lot of water systems and kind of what we do. I'm like, if we don't get good water in here, you're not going to taste the difference. And there was kind of you know what? I don't think this is for us.
Do I want to invest in this?
Exactly. Right. So what happened is, we had already bought the roaster, which we had to anyway. We were pulling it off, but that gave us we're gonna, because they're like, can you guys provide coffee? And we're like, heck yeah, bro. Right. We had 1 pound roaster. There's no way. But I was like, hell yeah, we can, but we couldn't.
It's kind of like going on a date and paying for the meal, and then you don't like the girl after all.
Kind of like that.
But you still enjoyed the meal.
You still enjoyed the meal though. You still had a good ribeye.
You choose a location because at least you can get a solid steak out of it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Diego's food truck never fails.
There you go.
Well, with that being
said, we are coming up on time.
Yes.
Thank you so much for taking the time and having us here at your home and
letting us come in. Yeah.
Yeah, and and sharing your vision, your story, and your passion. And I think it's a beautiful thing. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you guys so much, both Danny, Okly. I heard him call you Sam. Is that your...
So there's way too many Sams in the world. Okly's my last name, so I just go by Okly because it makes it easier. Although I have
the cold
5
name.
siblings, so there's a lot of us.
Okay, nice. Well, thank you guys so much. Guys, make sure you tune in and check out our upcoming shows. You can be updated with our Instagram page, our upcoming Facebook, TikTok, and we drop all of our live links, so make sure to check that out. Thank you guys so much.
Before we go, if there's anything you'd like to say, a plug in, a shout out, your vision for what you see for Semilla, the cameras are on you now.
I mean, we definitely want to, like, you know, this connection right here, connecting with like-minded people, businesses, and being able to work together towards, you know, like kind of like a similar goal is definitely what we want to do. Yeah, you know, we want to kind of bring this quality of coffee and knowledge and farmers to the valley. And yeah, if like, you know, if that's a vision that, you know, connects with y'all, that's so awesome. And we would love to like do that, you know, and just like, even if it's just like a one-on-one thing, it's such a cool thing to be able to like just have those conversations. Now that we've grown, where, you know, before like every conversation was a 30-minute conversation with every customer.
Right.
And now it's kind of gotten out of that like possibility, just being able to like have a space where we can talk about that and other people can hear about it. And then you guys can hear about it. And, you know, maybe, you know, there's some people
the
that
possibilities
will
are
get it,
endless.
you know, but it's
for sure.
being able to like get it out there.
I would say like, just come try it. There's no like stupid questions. You don't have to like it, but just like give it a shot. And if like, this is not just for people who like coffee, who already know about coffee. We're all about coffee education. I came in here drinking terrible coffee, you know, trying to ruin good coffee. So just come try it out.
Well, I appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Be Forkin For Real, episode
5.
episode 5.
Thank you guys.
Thank you guys.
Yeah,
Thanks for having us.